listen to the AZ Wildcats podcast. We have teamed up with BetMGM this season. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code PHNX and you'll get up to $1,000 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. All right, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code PHNX. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code PHNX when you sign up, always PHNX. And to kick off the partnership, we're doing a massive watch party this Saturday at 2 p.m. at the BetMGM Sportsbook at State Farm Stadium. Come watch the last stages of college basketball play out, as they'll have food and beverage specials, giveaways, massive TVs to watch the game on. Plus, if you register and place your first bet with promo code PHNX, when you sign up, you'll receive a PHNX shirt. And now let's listen to the great Shane Diefenbach talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
At least we didn't have to read that.
Well, Saul, you know what? There's a lot of perks about being the GM. That's one of the perks right there. You got to watch me do that right there.
Wow, that was interesting. Yeah.
All right. It's March Madness right here. We got comments coming in. Let's see, Derek Pivko. I wish I was watching Arizona in the Final Four. Come on, Mike, give us good news. There's always good news to give. But let's first talk about the transfer portal. Saul hit me up saying that he wanted to get on and talk about this. So, Saul Bookman, what are your initial thoughts on the transfer portal?
I think it's a good thing. I will tell you this right now. If I was in college, I probably would exercise that at least once. Right. I don't like the fact that it's unlimited, and I know that's changing. But like what it has been up to this point has been kind of a, for lack of a better word, a shit show where, right. I mean, listen, you're talking about 17 in some cases, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that are, there is no commitment to some of these places. And listen, you can't build yourself into a program and really establish yourself as part of a university brand if you don't give it more than a year. Because sometimes, you come in as a freshman, you're not ready to play. Right. A lot of these guys are told, oh, you're going to be in the NBA after 1 year and you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's tough. Or even in the NFL after a couple seasons, it's just, that's my only beef with the transfer portal. But I do like the freedom. I guess the rule is going to be that they can be there they can leave one time unsolicited. They can enroll immediately at another university. But after that, if they want to try transfer again, they got to sit out a year, which I do like. I do like that because once you get a transfer into your program, now you got to assume that they're going to be there for a couple years, which is good for every program.
And like you talked about, you're a big fan of Marquise Noel, as everybody should be.
Yes,
Kansas State. He wouldn't have these possibilities if this wasn't the way it was. Transfer obviously from Arkansas State, immediately eligible right now, got his game on the biggest stage. The one thing though that it rubs me a little bit the wrong way, but at the same time I totally get it, is that if I'm a coach and I'm finding Marquise Noel at Arkansas State and I'm putting in all those years to try to really develop him, and then the fruits of my labor go somewhere else, I do realize that this is that would bother me a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'm also more for the kid having that option of being able to improve and get to that level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, there's a couple transfers that we're going to talk about who you can't ignore the fact that going to a program like the University of Arizona or Indiana or North Carolina isn't big time, and it isn't a significant step up to improve their own draft profile and prospects and future possibilities. Like, I'm sorry, no disrespect to Arkansas State, but it's not Kansas State, and it's not in the Big 12, and it didn't give him the platform to be able to play on such a high profile stage and make himself a nationally known product. Like it just never would have. But now he has that opportunity, and there's other transfers that are going to have that same opportunity, come from some small schools or smaller schools than in Arizona, and we're going to touch on that.
All right, now let's talk about some of these kids right here. Jacob Franklin, if you could pull up the graphic, some of the kids that are available in the portal, and we have some new names as well. All right, so here's some of these guys right here. And this is, Saul, we've been talking about this all week, but I think it's important. I'm totally cool with getting the Courtney Ramies, the Cedric Hendersons of the world, guys like that. But you got to be able to get difference makers. You got to be able to get guys that you look at it and maybe they're not pros, but they're all conference type guys. You got a Reese Dixon Waters right here, a Graham Ike, a Khalif Battle. And then TJ Bamba just entered the transfer portal from Washington State. Caleb Love, same thing at UCLA. These are 16, 17 point per game guys at Power 5 schools. That's what Arizona has to get.
Yeah, I 1,000,000% agree with you, Mike. And a couple of the names on this list that I do like Guier. Guier, I don't know how you say his name.
Yeah, you got it.
I do love him, especially if you're talking about the possibility of a possible either not transfer, but going to the NBA for Tubelis. Mm-hmm. I think you need somebody that could possibly replace him. But the guy that I would actually like to replace him is lower down on that graphic, Graham Ike. 6'9" for Wyoming, 19 points a game. He was injured last year, so he didn't play last season. But the year before that, that's where those stats are coming from. He's a dog. He's a beast. Again, we're talking about going from a smaller program to a more high-profile program. Graham Ike fixed that mold, and he could replace Tubelis to a certain degree, and I think that would be great. Khalif Battle is cool. Reese Dixon Waters, I'm not as high on Reese Dixon Waters as a lot of guys are. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a tremendously great player. And again, I think he fits more of that mold of what Tommy Lloyd has brought in so far via the transfer portal, of that suitable substitution, a nice role player, but not somebody that moves the needle and makes you like an immediate national contender. And that's what you need at U of A. We're not Cal. We're not Washington State. We're not any team in the Big Ten. We're needle movers, or at least we're needle movers until we get to the tournament. I mean, that's just what it is so far. So you need big time prospects to come in here and change the game.
You know what we found out, unfortunately, in the tournament, though, is that Arizona had a lack of dogs. Arizona had a lack of guys that wanted the moment, and I can tell that Saul Bookman played high-level basketball because of the tweet you put out there about Tubelis. Now, a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? He had 21 and 10 or whatever. Tubelis did not want the ball down the stretch. There was the play where he had the 16-foot jumper, took the ball in, and then it was blocked. Again, not beating up on the kid. He's a fantastic player, but that 21 and 10 was not a 21 and 10 that I'm going to take over the game at the end.
Yeah, Tubelis is an interesting case because for the last 2 seasons he hasn't had the best tournament performances. I mean, that is what it is. Like, he has not been phenomenal in the tournament. And for U of A standards, and really what we've known from greatness in the tournament from key players, and you hoped that he would show to be one of those great players, is like there's moments where they just take over a game. Right. They lead you to victory. He had every opportunity in that last 10 minutes to be able to do so. He wasn't able to come through. That doesn't discredit the fact that he was one of the best power forwards that U of A's ever had. Like, that's just point blank what it is. His skill set's phenomenal. I think there's things that he can work on, things that he will have to work on before he gets to the league, because I'll tell you what, if you think you're going to hold the ball right in front of Chris Paul the way you do, that's not going to happen. So there's things that we're going to tweak. But again, that's not to disparage Tubelis. I think if he gets the right advice, I honestly think he should come back. I think he needs one more year to be able to grow, especially from the perimeter. I think he needs to develop his game on the perimeter a lot more than he is, because at his size, he's not really the back down power forward. He's more finesse. And when you have that kind of game, you have to be able to shoot from the perimeter in the NBA. So I would like to see him work on that skill set, come back, and be able to show that he can extend the floor to a certain degree. So yeah.
I think he financially would make a better decision for himself by coming back as well, because quite frankly, I mean, you guys cover the NBA up close. You see these guys game in and game out. Right now, I don't see that skill set as being something that is going to translate to the NBA because, again, it's not like he's really making plays off the bounce. A lot of those drives to the basket are going to get thrown into the third row. If he came back, developed a shot, in this day and the age where, you become a 38% three-point shooter, I think you have a fighting chance at that point. But right now, I just don't see that skill set really meshing. Now, again, I think he can make a ton of money internationally for sure, but I don't see him being that guy right now, Saul.
Yeah, no, I don't either. Again, I'm not trying to bag the kid, but, he kind of reminds me of a little bit of this. He reminds me a lot of some of the other U of A guys that have left to go to the league. Like there wasn't one discernible thing that you were like, yeah, like that's like high level ability right there, right? Like either shooting or rebounding or defensively, whatever. You have to have one thing that teams can point to and say, well, at least we have this. We know he's got this in his bag, and we know we can count on that, right? When you look at guys like Alonzo Trier was probably as close a prospect when I'm talking about like good at a lot of things, but not elite at one. Trier kind of bypassed that a little bit because he was a very, very good scorer / shooter, and that's what even got him to be in the league for a couple years. But again, just a couple years now he's in the G League. Rawle Alkins, there's not one thing that you could point to with Rawle Alkins and say like, oh, big time this or big time that, right? Like great athletic ability, that's about it. But athletic ability in the NBA is the dime a dozen. So what else can you do? Tubelis, same thing. What can you point to that Tubelis does that is one amazing like skill set? Somebody in the chat said Kobe Simmons, same thing. In between positions, not a tremendous shooter, not even a tremendous scorer. He lacked, defensive high level ability. So what was the one thing that you could point to and say, oh, he could do this? Now he's kind of thriving a little bit in the G League, but he hasn't gotten the opportunity at the NBA again. Like, so a lot of these guys are much better suited to go overseas and make a lot of money than they are to go to the NBA.
I'll take it a step further and say you could make a case that that's the microcosm of this team this year. You look at it up and down the board. Pelle Larsson, pretty good defender, not a great shooter, certainly not a great ball handler. Kerr Kriisa, I know he led the conference in assists, and again, these are good players, but these aren't great players. I think at Arizona, like Saul, when you were, you've seen it, I've seen it. At Arizona, you need frontline type dudes. You need All-American type players right there that can really take over, that have that discernible skill set. And nobody had it. But what surprises me the most, and I want your take on this, is you didn't have a dude that could make the plays off the bounce. At Arizona, that is the one thing you should always be able to have.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. That is, I love how you said that was kind of the microcosm, that has been a microcosm of not only the Tommy Lloyd era so far, and obviously allowed a significant portion of that roster was a Sean Miller roster, and it's changing now, obviously, but also the Sean Miller era, right? There was only a couple guys in the Sean Miller era even that you can look at and say like elite, right? We thought that they were elite because they were McDonald's All-Americans and they came in and did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Aaron Gordon is really the primary one that I can look at during the Sean Miller era and say he had elite defensive skill, and unbelievable athletic ability, right? You worried about his scoring, you worried about his shooting. He worked on that, and he's now a very good scorer in the NBA. But at least you can point to those two things and say, we know we can get this from Aaron Gordon, right? Everybody else in the Sean Miller era, kind of the same thing, kind of just like, okay, good at a lot of things, not great at any particular one, until you got to Benedict Mathurin, who kind of was okay under Sean Miller and then thrived under Tommy Miller because of the system that was presented to him. And you saw Benedict and you're like, oh, that's that dude. He can score in an elite clip and he can shoot the ball. And now you're looking at the Pacers, and I think he had like 29 points last night, an elite scorer.
You and I were talking, or you and I were actually sitting courtside or close to courtside in the TCU game. And what told me everything I needed to know about Ben Mathurin, how much different he was. Arizona's down 3. Tommy Lloyd, he looks over to Tommy Lloyd as the minutes or seconds are closing down, and probably expecting Tommy Lloyd, because Sean Miller's definitely calling a timeout right there. And Tommy Lloyd just looks at him and basically just says, go. He gets into his little dribble, raises up 3-0, but net. That is what the elite schools have. Yes. I get it that Tommy Lloyd runs a wide open offense that's fun to watch. Get all of that, and that he can, disguise a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, you also need to have those Benedict Mathurin. You just have to have them.
For sure. And then, going back to the transfer stuff, Caleb Love, I thought he's from North Carolina.
Yes, correct.
I thought you said UCLA earlier. I was like, wait, what? So yeah,
North Carolina. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. North Carolina, good player, but shooting wise, meh, and assist to turnover ratio, meh. I don't know. It would be nice to have a North Carolina type of player, but I think you're getting it off of rep than you are more of like actual ability, and you're hoping that he will take that step and growth the next year. The other player that I actually do like, and I think this is more of it's worrisome because you don't know how these players are going to really translate at a higher level, but very intriguing when you're talking about Taron Armstrong from Cal Baptist. And I know a lot of people on Twitter have talked about Taron Armstrong, hoping that maybe he would be in the fold for U of A. I'm very intrigued by him because I think he's kind of Kirk Kriisa 2.0. I think he's a better passer overall. I think he could develop into a better shooter just because of his height. 6'5" point guard, like that's not something that you just look over and gloss over and move on. So I like that. Then you mentioned TJ Bamba. I think anytime you can get somebody in league that's an elite scorer, you definitely got to take a look at that and consider that fact. Plus, he has a relationship. I do believe. I know Caleb Love is the one that has a relationship with Steve Robinson, so I could see how that could work.
Yeah. The thing I'm gonna make the case here for Caleb Love to a skeptical Saul Bookman right here.
Thank you.
First,
please do.
Saul Bookman, have you ever been to Circle K?
What? That's not the case.
That is a rhetorical question because everybody has been to Circle K. The reason that Circle K has been around in the manner in which it has is because it serves everybody. You can go anywhere in Tucson and you can find a Circle K. You can go to the nicest areas or you can go to some of the tougher areas. Circle K will be there. And here's the deal. Make sure you're not missing out on all the great stuff that is going on at Circle K. All stocked up for March Madness. Head to circlek.com/store locator, circlek.com/store locator to find a Circle K near you. You can get beverages. I like Polar Pops. You can get good food. And again, Red Bulls, Monsters, you name it. And like Saul Bookman said, he has been to Circle K before. Maybe you'll find Saul Bookman at Circle K.
Maybe. I'll buy you a thirst buster if you can.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. And that's on record right now. Jacob, can you timestamp that at 1855, please? And one other one, Mountain Mike's Pizza. So I'm up in Sacramento cruising around, getting ready for the NCAA tournament after about a 35-hour layover going and coming. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to go get some pizza. Guess where I found Mountain Mike's Pizza? Up in Sacramento. So don't believe that it's just in Arizona right here. This is a national movement right here. Oracle and Wetmore in the Tucson location. But you can also go to Sacramento. I vouch for it. Head over to Mountain
Phoenix. Or Phoenix.
Yes, I mean, let's not avoid the elephant in the room. But all right, here, head over to mountainmikespizza.com. Order their Mesa, Chandler, or Tucson locations to get your next order. Reminder, new diehards get a $50 voucher upon signing up, and maybe you will see Saul Bookman right there. Okay, maybe. Now, Saul, here's my Caleb Love. The reason that I'm intrigued by this is I have no clue what kind of coach Hubert Davis is. He could be good. He could be Kevin Ollie. I have no clue. What I am intrigued by is in the Sweet 16 and the Final Four, Caleb Love dropped 28 points and he dropped 30 points. He dropped 30 points in a Final Four game against Duke last year. That to me is something that is intriguing, especially in a Tommy Lloyd offense where I think he's going to accentuate some of the things that you do well and maybe hide some of the things you don't do as well. What say you?
Yeah, I think the biggest fear is not that year. It's the step back that he kind of took this year, right? You don't know. You start reading those press clippings, or not press clippings. It's more of like you're reading yourself on the internet, and you start feeling like you're that big dog, and maybe you don't prepare yourself and train accordingly, and you come into the season and you have kind of a down year compared to what the expectation was from year 1 to year 2. So that's what the fear is. With Caleb Love, it's not necessarily just ability. It's what did you do to regress to a certain degree this year from the prior year? And if he comes over to Arizona, you hope that you can get the first year when they were in the tournament and they had a great run, and not last year's version. So which one are you going to get? That's the biggest thing.
Here's my Hooper compare. Here's my only concern about Taron Armstrong, though. Playing at Cal Baptist, and again, maybe this is shallow, but averaged 11 points and 5 assists. Mm-hmm. If you're getting a guy at Cal Baptist, in my opinion, he's got to be putting up bigger numbers than that. Might be shallow.
Mike Luke, remind me, what were TJ McConnell's?
Dude, I was really hoping you wouldn't go there. I know.
What was that at Dayton, huh?
Duquesne.
Even worse, Duquesne. My bad, Duquesne. Yes, please tell me what TJ McConnell's stats were at Duquesne, and would you say that was relative to what he did at U of A?
There's a reason that one guy's the boss and the one guy's talking right here. I'll put it to you like that, because it was funny because I always do my show notes the night before, and I said I'm going to get him with this, but then I was looking, I'm like, I just hope he doesn't bring up McConnell. You brought up McConnell immediately. That was fantastic, dude. Okay.
So I guess what I would say is like I don't necessarily buy into the conference transfer and not producing stats at such an elite level, because part of that is having elite players around you. If you can create plays for other players and they can't come through for you, that's not really on you. So shooting wise, I will say this. Shooting wise, I agree with you. I think shooting wise, he needs to be much better. Like especially from the perimeter and especially at the free throw line, because he's I think he was a 64% shooter last year from the free throw line. That is not going to cut it in the Pac-12 or in the NCAA tournament, because we know how tight those games are. You need your point guard to be able to come through in those situations. So that's my one fear. But passing wise, core vision wise, he's as good as they come in the country. And I think Tommy Lloyd in this system could really flourish with this kid.
One thing I will, and if Jacob Franklin, if you could put up the list of guys that have been in the Elite Eight or the Sweet 16, putting up some numbers right here. I get a lot of people right now asking me who are some guys that are in the portal. We've gone over some names, but I'm just going to give you all a little bit of a hint out there. There's somebody not in the portal right now that, who knows, maybe he ends up at Arizona, and I think he would check off some of these boxes. But Saul, I wanted to get back to this point, though.
Whoa. You can't dangle that carrot and not give us a hint as to who that could be.
Oh, I can. I absolutely can.
Wait. Are you talking about somebody on that list?
Oh, there's not somebody on that list, but it was somebody that would make a similar impact. Somebody that's what I'm saying.
Can you give us a coast?
The Midwest.
Oh, okay.
All right. That's what I'm
I got you.
All right. We'll talk off here. But I'm just saying, my main thing is that you got to understand that not all these players are in the portal yet right now. So I think people are looking at it as this finite thing right here, and you're like, all right. Now, let me ask you this. What are your expectations then for last year's team or next year's team? Should this be a team that should be able to take a step forward, a step back? I've said all week that I believe that right now this should always be under Tommy Lloyd, a top 15, top 20 team, bare minimum, with the potential of going up.
Honestly, the construct is completely blown up now, Mike. I mean, look at the Final Four. Holy crap. You have Florida Atlantic, you have San Diego State, Miami, and UConn. And none of those teams would you have even expected to be in the Sweet 16. And I think all four of those teams aren't even ranked in the top 15 in the country, I do believe. Like, again, the model has been completely blown up, because what you're seeing is you just need good players, but you need a good system, and you need some dogs, because what we're seeing with every single one of these teams is defensively, they're very, very good. All four of those teams. I mean, Florida Atlantic with their big in the middle. His name is escaping me, but that team was very impressive. And for a school, kind of, an obscure school, to be as athletic and as lengthy as they are,
right?
Tremendous. Same thing with Miami. Tremendous. San Diego State. We've known what San Diego State has been for quite a while. We know that they're a defensive-minded team. They're kind of a thicker team. They like to get physical with you, and that's exactly how they were able to win the other day. I just think every single one of these teams is showing you that, like, defense and physicality matter in the NCAA tournament. And more importantly, anything can change from year to year.
Right.
And nobody, I mean, Jerome Tang at Kansas State had two players,
right?
Noel being one of them, on his roster, and had to go out and recruit. And luckily he was able to get Keontae Johnson. But that's how fast things can change in a year. And so if you're Tommy Lloyd, the transfer portal is probably more significant than recruiting high school players right now. To be honest, and I think that's the shift that a lot of these coaches are starting to make is, okay, cool, you can get this freshman who could come in and you can contribute. That's fine. But you need to find some dogs to come in and really be physical and play at a high level. And that's why a lot of these coaches, I think, are going to shift their attention from freshmen to the transfer portal. Because
guess what? You're probably not going to get a Marquise Noel as a freshman that's going to be, or a freshman Marquise Noel that's going to be able to do what he just did there on the biggest stage. Now, we got to talk about up front and our guys, the Four Peaks. Now, a lot of people know the Four Peaks as the U of A big men, but Four Peaks is the official brew of PHNX Sports as well. Now, got something really cool going on right here. And again, we got people asking about guard play with the great Saul Bookman. We'll get to that in just a second. But Four Peaks, new coach, new GM. The Cardinals have the third pick in the draft. They should choose Will Anderson, in my opinion. It's a big opportunity for our team. The best place to take this pivotal moment and the rest of the NFL draft is April 27th at Four Peaks 8th Street Pub. Must be 21 years up to enjoy responsibly. Saul Bookman, will you be at this event?
I will be. I absolutely will be. It's one of our best events of the year for sure.
So you will be having some Four Peaks up there as well. Now tell the people really quickly, who would you draft if you were the Arizona Cardinals? GM Saul Bookman.
1,000,000% Will Anderson. He's the best prospect in the entire draft. No doubt. Now, if you're the Cardinals, you probably want to trade down.
Right.
And if you can trade down to that 4th spot or maybe even 7th spot and still find yourself in a position to get Will Anderson and get some more draft picks, win-win. That's what you want to do. So that would be my pick.
All right. But again, check them out, though. There at the Four Peaks. It's going to be a great opportunity. And Tap and Bottle watch parties. Have very, very good time this past year having watch parties at Tap and Bottle. As you all know, Scott and Rebecca do an amazing job. You got the downtown.
Fantastic job over there at Tap and Bottle for sure.
They really do. You got the downtown location, or you got the one on the north side at Oracle. But here's what it is, though. You got a great TV setup, and you can get Four Peaks there as well. They got food trucks. It's a very homely type environment. Everybody knows each other there. It's just a good time. And again, we'll be getting those coming up again once football season hits. But you can always check me out, though, at Tap and Bottle if you want to check me out. Or you might say to yourself, I don't want to check Mike out. I'm going to go to the north side. Either way, Tap and Bottle. All right, Saul. Up front, Oumar Ballo. Right now, the two guys that I think you can pencil into the starting lineup for the U of A, and everything else is fluid, is Kylan Boswell at the point, Oumar Ballo at the big. I have gone back and forth in my mind as to what to expect from Oumar Ballo because, again, he went from 7-5 to 15 or 14-7. But there are some physical limitations to him. He's not an explosive athlete. The hands aren't great. Can he make that next jump, in your opinion? Because quite frankly, I'm kind of on the fence.
To the league?
No. Oh, no. No, he's not an NBA player. But can he become 19-10? Is that ever in his repertoire?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Think so?
In the college game, we've seen it so many times where big guys of his ilk are able to develop. One of the guys that I constantly think of, now I can't remember.
Kofi Coburn.
Nope. No. Kofi Cockburn is an athletic specimen. He's a freak. We're talking about North Carolina way back. Eric Montross. Eric Montross, okay? Not the most physically intimidating kind of guy, but just fundamentally sound, that wasn't like ripped. He wasn't like Kofi. And Ballo's kind of that same ilk. Now, the biggest difference between Ballo and Montross is that Ballo still needs a little bit more fundamental work with his game, right? He needs to be able to develop that hook shot to be as consistent as possible. Right now, he scores at a very high clip from within that 10-foot area, which is cool, but I think he needs to widen that out just a little bit, okay? Be able to get off the block by a couple steps and still be able to be as effective. He tends to have his upper body way too much when he goes to the hole, which is why he picks up a lot of offensive fouls. Guys are waiting for that move. He needs to be a little bit more fluid with his movement, so that way when he does drop that shoulder and he can feel the defense he could just spin out of that and go to the cup a little bit differently. So I think there's some skill sets that he's going to be able to add to his game, and I fully expect him to. The growth from year 1 to year 2 was tremendous. I think you're going to see equal growth from year 2 to year 3, and I would suspect that especially in the lower portion of his body, he's going to put a lot of work into that to get a little stronger on that lower end, because I think from a trunk standpoint, he still's got a lot of growth to go.
Tommy Lloyd told me something I thought was interesting one time. He said when he plays with balance, he is a very, very good player. And I think that's exactly what you were saying right there. When he plays with balance, when he doesn't get ahead of himself, he's really hard to stop because he's so big out there. Now, Kylan Boswell, essentially what happened here is that Kirk Carissa obviously could have come back, but I think there were some talks, and Kylan Boswell was going to be the man at the point guard position. The transfer portal gives guys fluidity.
And he should be.
I am ecstatic to see what he can do, because honestly, when he came in here, he doesn't look like your prototypical point guard. He's got a different build for sure. And granted, he's coming off a foot injury, but you could tell by the end of the season, from the 3-point shot to being kind of a dog on defense and also being able to initiate, this is a guy that has all conference potential sooner than later, Saul.
I think Kylan Boswell, though the assist portion of this might be a little different, he reminds me a lot of Mateen Cleaves.
I like that.
Just a dog on the defensive side, being able to hit clutch shots whenever you need him to. And really, if he can develop that shooting ability, he's got a little bit of a long form on his release. He's going to have to tighten that up just a little bit and tweak that. And if he does, he's going to be an elite player. But I think physically, Kylan Boswell could play in the NBA right now physically. At the guard position. He could hold up with the wear and tear of a season because of how stout he is. That's what I love about him, and I love his intensity on the defensive side. And I think if he continues to develop that, I think he's going to make a significant jump from year 1 to year 2, and I think he's going to push to be the best point guard in the league no matter what next year. I truly believe in Kylan Boswell.
Bonus points for you right here, Saul. Can you remember the nickname for Mateen Cleaves, Charlie Bell, Andre Hudson, and Jason
Flintstones, baby?
I just wanted to make sure.
Flintstones, baby.
Just wanted to make sure it was a great nickname, by the way, and those were fun teams.
Because they were all from Flint, Michigan. Yeah.
They were all from Flint, Michigan, correct. Now, we got to talk about Pac-12, Big 12 here. At this stage in the game, I am all in on the Big 12. Now, listen, I know that some people say, well, the Pac-12's got bigger or cooler cities or their academics. At this stage in the game for the Pac-12 or Arizona, the most important thing is to be in a stable conference going forward, because as everybody knows, there's going to be another eruption here in college basketball or college athletics in the next 6-7 years. Here's what the Big 12 can give you. They can give you visibility. They can give you money. And on top of that, you're playing in the best basketball conference. I get that football pays the bills. I totally get all of that. But football to me is a wash in the Big 12. Keep in mind, TCU is just in the national title game, so it's not like you can't get there. And Arizona in the Big 12 for basketball is all kinds of fun, Saul Bookman.
No, I completely agree. I love it for basketball. I don't know how I feel about it for football. But I think what you're starting to find out is there's 2 lanes to go here, and it depends on what lane Arizona really, really, really wants to be in. And I think Robbins is probably leaning more towards Big 12. for the football aspect of it alone. But if you're really serious and you're looking at Arizona for what they are right now, they're not an elite football school, but they are an elite basketball program. And if you want to keep going down that road, you could find yourself building the Pac-12 into an elite basketball conference with some football obviously mixed in as well. So if you look at it, let's just say in a perfect world, you find 4 teams on the West Coast. Okay. I just had the 4th team and I lost it, but let's add Gonzaga. Let's add St. Mary's. Oh, there it is. St. Mary's, Boise State, and San Diego State. Okay. Right. If you add those, okay, now you have the California schools, St. Mary's and San Diego. So now you can do the home and home for basketball. Right. And you have Boise State and Gonzaga. So you can do the home and home in the Northwest, right? So you can keep that. Football-wise, you've added 2 more football teams to the conference. So Boise State and San Diego State. Both of them have been good, suitable to be able to play at a high level. And then you've added 2 more teams on the basketball end, and they're strictly basketball in Gonzaga and St. Mary's. And you keep that rivalry between Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and you bring it all into the fold. So now you've gone from 10 to 14, and now you're a legitimate conference still. If you go Big 12, I'm cool with that. But if you go Big 12, in my opinion, you can't just go with just ASU and U of A. You have to bring Colorado and Utah as well, because I feel like that foursome is going to be a powerful foursome in the Big 12. Plus, you reestablish some of those rivalries with Colorado and Kansas and all this other stuff, and you bring in a new fold, a new era, and obviously you have the automatic rivalry games, which will be Kansas and U of A and Baylor. Those are the things that you want to continue to develop. So if you're going to lose UCLA and USC and you pick up Kansas, I think that's a win-win.
Right. Now, there was a loudmouth in Tucson a while back that was saying, why not just punt ASU and just go with Colorado to the Big 12?
Because that's
Saul,
the stupidest shit you could ever say in the world.
Whoever this was, Saul, explain to the good folks out there why this was a moronic take by somebody that might be talking to you at the moment.
Okay, because it's still a numbers game. And when you're talking about television revenue, you can't ignore the fact that ASU isn't a big market. And numbers wise, especially in football, it's not even close. You can't, you're basically cutting your nose off to spite your face if you just get rid of ASU. And listen, as much as we hate ASU, there's still the rivalry, and it's still fun, and it's still fun to talk shit. If we lost that, what are we even doing? Why do we even have college sports if we can't talk shit and stomp all over the little brother? Like, what are we doing here? So you have to have ASU. And just like Colorado has to have Utah for that same reason.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. You've sold me on that, but it was funny to think about, though. Now, I've had a lot of people that have asked me about this, and I figured that DeAndre Ayton, we're going a little bit off script here, but you're up there on the ground every single day. I'm of the opinion that this guy's basically 17-9. He'll always be 17-9. Don't think he's going to be much more, not much less either. Definitely not a star, but I'm also, when I watch him, I just want so much more from him, Saul.
We
obviously you're on the Suns. You have a great Suns post-game show. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we all do. We all do. We all want more from DA because we saw the potential and the ability when he was at the U of A, and that was. It was something we had never seen before from somebody that big, athletic. His perimeter shot was so much better at U of A than it has been in the league. I thought he would be able to develop that at the 3-point line at some point, but he hasn't really developed that at all. And he's kind of plateaued to a certain degree. He gives you these moments where he gets you 30 and 15, and then he has other moments where he'll get you 6 and 3. It's just all over the place. He literally had a 7.3 rebound game in Chicago in Kevin Durant's second game of the season. Like, those are the ebbs and flows of DeAndre Ayton, and that's the thing that's the most frustrating. But I still believe in him. I still feel like he's going to be able to get to a point where he will be a 25 and 10 or 15 guy. He will make a couple All-Star games. It's taken him a little bit longer than I think people were really willing to accept. I hope I get to see it while he's in the Suns uniform. I have a sneaky suspicion that he's going to blow up once he leaves the Suns, and that's just because of the construct of the team.
Milwaukee Bucks, Phoenix Suns, NBA Finals. I'm not going out on a limb because those are both the betting favorites right now, but that's where I would go right there, Saul. I think the Suns come out, barring injury, I think the Suns are the clear favorite out of the West, and I haven't been able to say that in a while.
I hope so. I hope you're right. I would say that if you're going to bet, that would be a smart bet. But I also like the Nuggies. I don't, Denver's a sleeper team. Even though they're the number one seed in the West, they haven't proved it in a non-COVID year. So let's see what they got.
All right, now let me tell you about OGs, Saul. All right,
let me tell you about OGs. Okay,
you tell me about OGs.
It's the best edible in the game. Okay, you go to ogsbrands.com. They'll take care of you. You can find out what dispensary they're at. They have them down in Tucson. It's actually a Tucson-based company. If you didn't know that,
local.
Yeah, they are more local in Tucson than they are up here in Phoenix, but they're everywhere now because they're one of the best edibles in the game, and you can enjoy their new flavor, their Happy Balance Gummy, a 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio, which kind of calms your or soothes your aches and pains, and hey, it kind of mellows you out, gets you right for bedtime or whatever time of the day it is for you. But go to ogsbrands.com and remember, you must be 21 or over to enjoy.
Okay, Saul, before we sign off here, what I do want to talk about, though, is I look at where Arizona athletics is right now and where it was 2 years ago. And because I always try to preface this with people saying, oh, well, we still only won 5 games in football or we got knocked out. Yes, those are disappointing getting knocked out. But at this time 2 years ago, we had not won a tournament game in 5 years. And Arizona was in the midst of a 12, about to become a 20-game losing streak. The Tommy Lloyd and the Jed Fish hires, big picture, have been A hires. And I keep trying to remind people that, Saul, you're an alum. You're up there keeping an eye on. Where would you stack Arizona right now and compared to where they were 2 years ago?
Maybe stack them in the Pac-12 or just all time in Arizona history?
No, just in the Pac-12, just from an overall, strength moving forward, basketball, football perspective.
Yeah, I think they're a top 4 or 5 program when you combine those two. And then I would say that they're a top 2 or 3 program if you include the women's basketball team as well, because we can't forget about that part. Adia coming in here and transforming that entire program from what it was. And trust me, there were some dark days there. We've talked about that.
Front row.
Yeah, I was. And then obviously what Jed Fish inherited, how he had to turn that whole program around and what he's been able to do with very little at first. And now he's trying to grow that into a very strong brand. And then obviously Tommy Lloyd. So I would say in the Pac-12, definitely a top 4 program. I think Arizona athletics as a whole are very successful in multiple sports. There's not one single program anymore that you can point to and say that's the worst in the country or that's the worst in the conference. Right. They're good all the way across the board. You used to be able to say that about men's golf, but men's golf has even come up big time in the last couple of years under Coach Anderson. And so they've grown that program. Women's golf and Laura Ianello has been phenomenal. Love that program. Love her. So I just think overall, U of A is one of the best run programs athletically in the country, not just the Pac-12. And so I know we get a little obsessed with the postseason results, and I know we get a little despondent and we get irate because honestly, it's probably more of us taking so much crap from everybody else because we're so good during the regular season. Right. We're so good in the Pac-12 tournament, and for some reason, it is just not translating to the postseason success for the men. But you can't lose sight of the fact that you're developing good players, good people, and they're reaching levels of success that a lot of programs wish and envy that they had.
All right, Saul, you're the boss. You're the GM. Before we sign off, what do you got going on up there? I know you got all kinds of good stuff going on at PHNX.
Yeah, like as you mentioned, the MGM Sportsbook. We got a little. We can't say the tournament name, obviously, but we can say that we're showing those 2 games that are being played in college basketball on Saturday. So come check us out over at the Sportsbook. I'll give you a free shirt if you show up. How about that? Plus, you'll probably get some free bets on site. So come out, check us out. But we got so many cool things going on. Obviously, we're about to hit the playoffs with the Suns. We got some watch parties going on. We've got some takeovers going on. So check us out. Go to gophx.com. Check it all out. Become a diehard. I know. Listen, folks, especially if you live down in Tucson, I apologize right now. I'm apologizing to you all because I don't feel like we've done enough to embrace the U of A community and really take advantage of really building that community out. It's because it's such a strong community. Everybody down there in Tucson is all about the U of A for the most part. And so we've been a little negligent because we've had to build some other things up here. Fan bases up here need a little TLC, and we needed to try and build those communities up. And what better than a U of A guy to do that, right? So that's what we're trying to do. I have a group of U of A people that have a strong background in trying to build this community along with ASU people. I'm not going to disrespect them. One's behind the Mac helping us run the show, and the great Jacob Franklin. But we will be doing some events here soon down in the Tucson area, so stay tuned for that.
All right, I'm Mike Luke. He's the boss, Saul Bookman. I'll be back with you tomorrow, normal time, 12:30. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.